Hello to the participants of Together Apart Future. Hello to the ACE team and hello to the public that it's here with us this afternoon in Buenos Aires or wherever you're joining us in the world. Maybe it's the evening, maybe it's the morning. We are here to showcase and present the results that the participants of this program had over the individual exercise and the group exercise that they did in the 5 weeks that we shared together. So without further ado, I give the word to Alicia, founder and director of Proyecto ACE. Ali?
Thank you, Andy. Welcome to everyone to ACE, the artists participating of Together Apart, the ACE team and the public. I am looking to some very beloved faces. Welcome, Mina Resnick. Nice to see you again. Welcome, Julie Pese. Welcome, Carlos Doria, that has been our resident. Welcome, Denise, that has been part of Futuro, the Spanish cohort. I think that we will have a great time together. Proyecto ACE is a space of thinking and production of contemporary art located in the city of Buenos Aires in Argentina, based in an artist in residence international program that already celebrates 15 years of existence. As all of us know, residencies are microcosmos. Very often, they are spaces of experimentation that give the artist in residency a moment out of time and in a new space, while being inextricably linked to new contexts, networks, and environments. 2020 was an extraordinary year for good and for bad. We saw the continuation of the global pandemic, with long periods of isolation and economic crisis. But at the same time, massive Black Lives Matter protests worldwide, continued #MeToo debates, and myriads of other struggles for justice and equality. At the same time, nature has a chance to recover by itself, and we as an artist realized that despite the art world was paralyzed, we were able to keep working, even with these unfortunate circumstances. ACE, as well as other small organizations, these dramatic events encourage us to ask, how can we as residencies, as small art organizations, as artists, can affect positive change in our art communities, our immediate environment, and the society at large? How can we, despite our differences, our temporalities, and our individual challenges, contribute to an anti-racist, feminist, caring, and sustainable future? One of the few things that was clear at the start of this pandemic was the fact that the format of the residencies as such and the way we support artistic practices needed to adapt. And this has to be done by all of us, individuals and institutions, united as a community. However, while the physical mobility generated by residencies with the closed borders and the impossibility of physical proximity was suspended, we realized that another very important part of being in residency was the possibility of inhabiting a new environment and generating networks between artists that could be anywhere in the world as in this moment. Thanks to an experience of almost 16 years of conducting face-to-face residencies, we decided to create this program that from the beginning, we wanted it to be unlike anything we had done before. In this context, Together Apart is a program that we began to imagine, produce, and give a theoretical frame almost 1 year ago, in the middle of a pandemic and in Argentina under a strict quarantine, with Andrés Nov, ACE's executive coordinator. Almost immediately, Daniela Ruiz Moreno, who had been our coordinator until 2018, joined the team as curator in residency, helping us in the theoretical construction of each of the particular themes. It was really a madness because, as we told before to the group, Daniela moved from Buenos Aires to Uruguay, from Uruguay to Madrid. We were in lockdown, in quarantine in Argentina, so we communicated by WhatsApp, by emails, by any kind of digital media, but we couldn't be together in the moment that we were designing this. So it was a lot of expectation. We didn't know if our work will be fruitful at all. At that time, we wanted that it did not resemble anything that we had done before. In this way, Together Apart was born in August 2020 as a hybrid residency, remote shelter for artistic practices, an online program that is not a residency, is not a theoretical seminar, it is not a technical workshop, it is not abstractly networking place, it is not a portfolio critique encounter, and it's all of that together. Today, it has had 6 editions, 3 in Spanish and 3 in English, allowing the attendance of artists from all over the world under anchor themes of shelter, nest, frontier, and future. Together Apart was also enriched with the assistance of Alen Iglesias, our assistant for the technical issues, and with the feedback provided by more than 130 artists, creators, curators, scholars from all over the world and all disciplines. Painting, drawing, sculpture, printmaking, sound arts, digital media, social activism, urban planning, graphic design, architecture, textile arts, ceramics, illustration, video, photography, and scholars coming from philosophy, science, and language. All of them, all of you who attended the program in less than 1 year incorporated their constructive feedback. Each session is different, and each time we achieve better results. Because it is conceived as an encounter among colleagues, among peers, in which creators of all ages and levels are accepted. The artists who produce in collective projects continue to work together after the program, and many of them are exhibiting this work in international exhibitions and art or video festivals. The program aims to expand collaborative and interdisciplinary work and stresses the process more than the final result, encouraging everyone to get away from the media in which they usually work and to use digital tools, Zoom, social networks, WhatsApps, emails, social media, image and sound manipulation programs in an unconventional way. Today, we present the 6th edition of Together Apart cohort in English under the theme of future, a subject that deeply touches all of us in this moment. The pieces and reflections produced by artists from Argentina, Canada, Egypt, Italy, and the United States are inspiring while provide clues to think about how we can collaborate in a better future for both individuals as well as the planet that lovingly shelters us. I invite Daniela Ruiz Moreno, who is connected from Madrid, Spain, to continue this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alicia, and welcome everybody. Thanks to the artists that are joining and all the public. I will now share my screen because I will be showing images of all the work that we have been doing and discussing about. So a little bit of how we have been working throughout all these months. We have started with the proposal of a conceptual framework and also giving artistic references as to start opening up and thinking about the future in a more complex way. So we also, as Andy said, we have also proposed different exercises some individual and some in groups. And throughout all these sessions, we have been reviewing the results and giving references. We don't work in a method of giving evaluations or thinking in a valorative way. It's only more giving space and discussions to the processes and the different ways that we can collaborate together. When we talked about the future, we defined 4 strategies to start thinking about how art can relate to the future and in which forms of art we can see that the future is embedded. First, we talked about the creation of spaces. We were mentioning how in an architecture or in any building, we can see that there's this conception of a future life that will happen there. Also, we talked about representation of futures, preservation and recuperation as ways to preserve memory, preserve heritage, preserve artwork, and also imagination. Imagination as a strategy that would allow us to think about different futures or different worlds in which we are living within. And however, while looking at all these strategies, we were saying that we can envision as well or identify 2 different types of futures. Again, these classifications, we did it as a way to organize ourselves and to have somewhere from where to start from. So, but we were saying these strategies or the construction of space, representation, etc., can be produced and created in a way that show an utopian future or allocated or situated future. What we meant with these 2 categories are with utopian futures, mainly a way of conceiving the future that implies a linear time and a progressive time. It's also a way of conceiving time and history in a way that has and presents a global and generalizing aim with not giving so much space for diversity and variety. And it also, of course, implied talking about dystopia. And as examples, we were talking about the manifestos from the avant-garde movements from the 20th century, only as to give you some idea. With located and situated futures, we were seeing these strategies more in a way that talked and perceived and worked with time in a cyclical way, in a fragmented way, and also that allowed this sort of like, this way that has chronological disorders. That was the word that I was looking for. So in this located and situated future, we talk about the past more in a way that informs and boils into the present and the future. It's not this progressive and ordered past, present, future. But we will expand all these ideas with the exercises. Also, in every program that we do, Andy does a presentation that we talk like this art toolbox, and he shows different artworks, international contemporary artists that can help us as well to work. And with future, he was defining how in these artworks, the future can be presented as a concept, as a component, or embodied in the potentiality of the present, when we see an artwork that works as a premonition, for example. And here is one of the examples that we talked about, which help us a lot to think about different ways to include time in the artwork, which are the one-year pieces by Teching Xie. So these 2 exercises that we were mentioning, the first one, individual, we named it A Gesture with Future. And the second one, which was in groups, we mentioned it as collaboration with the future. So now first I will be presenting the individual results and works which are still in process. And I will also give and invite the groups to present their own works. With all these works that were produced, we reviewed them and we decided to organize them in 3 different groups and 3 different axes. The first one, learning about the future with nature. The second one, temporalities of media. And the third one, memory for the future. These titles will be expanded and more clear as we see the artworks. Of course, I will start with learning about the future. And the first example I wanted to show is the work by Kelsey Stephenson that sadly is not joining us today because she's on holidays. So Kelsey worked with the idea of the future, looking at the landscape that surround where she lives. And she was looking specifically to water, and water that is in a liquid state and water that is in a frozen state. And with these elements of nature, she could think about time that flows versus time that it's still. And again, thinking those as a cycle and not as separate. After taking these pictures of her surroundings, Kelsey projected to do this installation that we see here, that in which water was working not only as the ground, but as sort of the sky as well. And we were mentioning how this created this oniric space. Also, taking as a sort of a source of reflection, the nature, the work of Lindsay Clark Ryan. She was working in the yard and she thought about the future as a space while she was working in her yard. She was taking care of this flower that it's called peony while also removing the poison ivy. So she was thinking about as well, while you expect the growth of a plant, she was using the word anticipation, a word that has appeared a lot while we talk about the future. And Lindsay, helped us to think about the future also as a space, as this negative space towards a shape moves to. So in this way, it was very useful as well to every art practice. Going now to the work of Shar Scholl, she presented and taught us, I think, a lot of, through her artwork and her experiences, a lot about transformation. Transformation, which is an element that is a constant in nature. And so in her first exercise, Shar presented these digital collages where we see fiber arts and her interest for garments, for dress, for sewing as well. And as well, she presented this draft of a female and a trans brain. So Shar not only talked about the transformation of her interest in different types and disciplines of arts and the possibility to actually be interested in an art that is mainly conceived as feminine, but also about her gender transformation. So this was a constant in all her works. Now an exercise that actually collaborated like literally with nature and also used it as a way to reflect about the future is the work of Gary Trilling. The first one that you see here on the left is a painting that she exposed during 2 years to nature. So we can imagine that it received like sunlight, moonlight, wind, rain, etc. And that this is the result and how it looked after those years of being exposed. So this is, again, it's like a transformation, but it's also seeing what are the effects and what is the effects of future, but through nature in an artwork. And then this image that you see here is a story that Gary shared with us that was very interesting to think about conviviality and process of transformation, which are also part of nature. This is a zombie ant, an ant that was that received, or a fungi was installed in the body and the structure of this ant. And so for a while, the ant continues living, but then the fungi, as it grows, it finishes killing the ant. And so that's why, but sometimes the ant continues moving. So this is this new sort of being that it's called zombie ant. But I thought that this was very interesting to see different grades of conviviality, on how we can think of a conviviality that allows the two beings to continue living, or this extreme case, which at the end kills, and it's more a parasitic conviviality. Also, talking a lot of transformation and the use of nature for the creation of artwork, we can see the work of Rachel Single, So in this picture, we see the work that Rachel does. She removes this invasive plant from a pond nearby her house. And with that plant, she produces paper. So again, this is another strategy that we talked a lot about, that is the reuse, the recycling of material. In this example, she used these natural elements to create paper. And then as well, parallelly, Rachel was showing us this work in which she used this etching that she had done in the past, and she erased it here, as we see. But then she used that same paper, and we can see also like the ghost of the previous etching, to create a new one. So again, it's like talking about transformation inside the future, but also with and applying this process to the artwork. This collage by Claire Thomas brought another concept that was very interesting, which is the contrast or relation between nature and culture, that we always try to think of them as embedded as well, or articulated, but also inspired by some readings that we suggested by Mark Fisher in the Ghost of My Life, that book. Claire was talking about how it seems that we are inside a constant loop of repetition in terms of culture. So in this collage, we see images that are photos that are from the 70s or contemporary, but it's not very easy to actually identify what belongs to which year. Everything seems from the past. So this is this idea of the impossibility for innovation in culture. And also in this collage, we see natural elements, and Claire was bringing this idea of how we have this relationship with nature and that we conceive it as a constant, as a timeless present. So this was very interesting because we shared with Claire that in fact we were thinking of nature as something that is in constant transformation, but not so much as she presented it as something that we take it for granted that it's always there. And she was also sharing this question that I put here: is the future always new? Going now to a work that also used shapes from nature, we see this plate that was created by Trisha Gupta. She created this plate for collagraph that was composed by shapes of brain structures, fungi, and also plants. And she articulated all this as in a one continued sort of being. And Trisha was sharing with us that she used this work also to think about what will be art in the future. And from her experience, because she works mainly in art therapy and art and artivism, she was proposing that art in the future would go more to those areas, but not so in separated categories. So through this work, she was also proposing to expand these notions and to also expand notions as neurodiversity, which are very central in these types of works. As a final work that I want to present from this group is one from Jess Carlock, because I think that it also allows us to think about not only what are the ideas of nature and what nature can learn, what different ideas it can bring to us about the future, but also because of the work she did in relation to the temporalities of media. So I will show this video very well. I can put the sound as well. So what I saw and what Jess shared with us, which is really interesting about this work while she was recording these landscapes, is that she thought about the wind as an element that actually has past, present, and future as a continuum. So this idea was very relevant, and I think that also will appear in other works. And also it was super interesting how the wind was actually creating distortions in the image, and that's why, and the sound as well. So that's why I also share this quote by this theorist, Wolfgang Ernst, who actually researches about the different temporalities that different media has. And I only share this, this quote in which he says, there is actually no present moment in sound perception, since there is no punctual acoustic signal, but always successive oscillations and therefore already a delayed present. So this idea of delayed present that he also brings, I think is very connected to what Jess suggested about the wind as having past, present, and future in itself. And now I would like to invite the group by Jess, Trisha, and Gary, that they did this video that for the second exercise that they entitled, "What Will Our Future Be Like?" So first I will show the video and then I give the space for them to talk about how was their collaboration.
If your future will be your past, which parts of it will replay? If knowing the present today could be the same as yesterday, and has before, it can fill you with a blind panic, like static and snow, white and black.
What will my future be like? I don't know. I thought a lot of things. Thought I knew. We always thought we knew. Most of them were wrong. Don't have that level of accuracy. Don't have the power of prophecy. I'm worrying again. Not sure I want it. Because the things I worried about, some of them are here. Isn't that always the case, though? It's easier to know than to try and predict. What will my future be like?
There we go.
So that's the video. And now I invite the group, Trisha, Gary, and Jess, if you would like to add something.
We had an interesting process of collaboration where we needed to take videos we'd created around a similar idea, that of uncertainty and questioning of the future, and then integrate them. And to think about to think about what was going to unite these pieces into meditation on that, not embracing that uncertainty. Trisha, Jerry?
Thank you, Jess, so much.
Um,
Yeah, Trisha, please.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I think it was interesting because we thought of this idea of answering the question, what will your future look like? And we kind of related it to the past and the idea of expectation, worry, and also we were looking at ways in which your narrative could be interrupted. Like you may feel like you left your life or your space for a little while and then came back to it because of loss or illness or injury, or because of the anticipation of what is to come. So I think like the challenge definitely was like figuring out how to integrate and work with really different memories and very specific experiences and still make them fit and keep that narrative cohesive. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Gary, would you like to add something or? You are muted, Gary. There we go.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, watching it this time, I'm sort of struck by the thought of time and of how civilizations devolve and then build on where they were and start over again. And I think that the question that, or the statement that sort of finishes this for me is what next?
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. I think that it's very interesting, this parallel of not only thinking about the interruptions in the narrative of each of you as artists, as an individuals, and continuities and cycles, as we have also shown in the previous exercises. And in these gestures as weaving and unweaving, and wind and video that stops and continues. So thank you so much. Now I will continue with the second axis that we defined, which is temporalities of media, that, as I was saying before, it was sort of already presented in the work of Jess that I showed before. And now I will put this work by Lorena Pradal. Lorena showed a video in which she was embroidering these silks that she was reutilizing. And because embroidery was a new practice for Lorena, she shared with us how she felt a different consistency of time but while doing that, and a different feeling of the pass of time. So this was very interesting as well, to think about how doing certain practices expand the feelings of time or the conditions of time. And she was also sharing this idea that she was embroidering different cartographies, and the fact that she thought and she reflected about the future as a seed. This idea of the future as a seed, which grows, but it grows while it doesn't know it will become a tree. It's also an idea that we have discussed a lot throughout our cohort, and also with the Spanish cohort. And following with the work of Lucio Gorzalczany, last name which is hard for me to pronounce, Lucio was reutilizing artwork that he had done in the past. So he did this work of going back to his own archive, and he did these new collages and juxtapositions of these digital drawings or photographies or cartographies that he creates in different media. While doing these new collages, he was creating, we were talking about how he created these sort of atmospheres of distorted times, Or we talked about a lot about that they look as well as representation of black holes or different dimensions. So it was very interesting how he could create these confusing atmospheres where we cannot see very clear the coordinates. And Dia also worked with this another media that was pretty new for us, and which is super interesting, that I want to share here with you the website. What Dia presented is these generative paintings that now, as the website uploads, you will see we can start to see them. Dia explained quite a lot how this process works, and he shared with us the idea that the creative process is not in what we see, but it's in the coding, right, in the programming. So it's like the script of this work, and what we see here is only the visual manifestation of this coding. So for Dia, the future is in these open-ended processes, which are actually which he can intervene and manipulate as an artist, but which the audience can also manipulate. And as you refresh the website, you can see how these paintings are created in a different way, because they create randomly according to the code that he designed. And now I will show this work by the group of Chris, Lindsay, and Carrie, which was also working a lot with video, with voice generators. So I decided to put this work inside this group, because through a very interesting manipulation of video and the voice generator, they were also creating these different atmospheres. But I don't want to talk more, because they were making different points which are very interesting as well. So here I will leave it, and then I invite them to talk.
These were the first verbs, all others followed from these. To reckon, to build, to fold, to touch, to frame, to press, to carry, to soak, to remember. These were the first verbs, all others followed from these. To open, to pose, to beat, to beacon, to be, to pulse, to pulse, to pulse, to close, to form, to shape, to shave, to sharpen, to shine, to pulse, to pulse, to pulse, to get, to net, to sweat, to pass, to play, to give, to save, to pulse, to pulse, to pulse, to drive, to receive, to take, to make, to bake, to carry, to cross, to throw, to soak, to collapse, to roll, to drive, to carry, to load, to forge, to mortgage, to mortify, to sportify, to magnify, to pacify, to pacify, to pacify, to I, spy, to rectify, to pulse, to pulse, to pulse.
Carry, Carrie, 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 frame.
So if Chris, Lindsay, or Kari would like to share some ideas about the collaboration and the work.
I'll say something, I guess. One of the pieces of that, the video, I didn't make it due to the time limit, and it showed more of the trucks going over the bridge. And that bridge is the Ambassador Bridge, which runs over the Detroit River between Windsor and Detroit. I grew up on the Canadian side. It's about a kilometer wide. And anyway, that became sort of a kind of a little bit of a touchstone for thinking about the collaboration between Canada and the US, as our movement was restricted as tourists or travelers between one another's country. And yet the commodities and goods continued to flow almost without interruption. I'll leave it at that for Carrie and Lindsay to go.
Thank you, Chris. Kari or Lindsay, there we go.
I don't have much more to add. I don't know. I think we're already pushing our time limit here, but yeah, beyond what was already in the video and what Chris said, we were kind of intuitive about a lot of things and combining different aspects of our surroundings and what we happened upon or were able to kind of brainstorm and adapt to. But yeah, it seemed kind of like we were thinking about different things, but also in context with one another. There was a lot of, it seemed like what emerged was this kind of simultaneously immersive beauty and anxiety that we were kind of being able to create an atmosphere from.
Thank you, Lindsay. Kari, I don't see you, but
oh, I'm here, but I want to be careful about time, but I would just add that we were interested in language as like codification of that anxiety and that extraction and construction as it relates to time. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that this is a very important point of this group as well. And how you talked about the relation of action and language. Also, when it comes to an working atmosphere as Zoom and only being able to communicate through digital media, language becomes like one of the main of like our main currency as well. So it's super interesting in this way. Thank you. So I will continue with the last axis of work, which we identified, which is memory for the future. And so presenting this work by Chris, which was the part of the first exercise, Chris shared with us the fact that he had produced the work, but then he was thinking about the conditions of visibility of the work, and he decided to present this black square and a text in which he shared his reflection about whether or how to present a work like this. So for this, he chose invisibility and silence. And this was a work that was super interesting for us. And as he explained as well, we thought it touched also issues about the time that a community needs in order to integrate or to share information and to share context. And Chris was mentioning how this maybe would be a work that would only be not important, but relatable to people who were part of the Canadian context. So up till now, he presented only the black square and the text, and this is a work that actually would need more time, or maybe it stops there, but it would need more time maybe to unfold. Also, another artwork that worked with the unfolding of time and expectation as well, was the one by Beth Grabowski. What she did is she created a testament for all her artwork, all the artwork and the equipment that she has been using and producing. And so deciding what would happen to the distribution, reproduction of her artwork after she passed away. So this was also very interesting because it's a very clear project that we can, as audience, as spectators, we can know exactly what her decisions, but it also needs time in order to unfold and to actually produce. So Beth was talking about what would happen to her artwork. Some of it would be burned, some other would be digitalized and shared in specific context. So this was very interesting about thinking of the future of the production of an artist. And she gave the title to this work that was Passing On. Also, the work by Claudia Rosselli, it was a reflection about how the uses of spaces develop. This was something that she shared from her experience of being vaccinated for the COVID-19. And the fact that she received the vaccine in a tent that was constructed in the past to hold a circus, but because of different acoustic and different conditions, this was never used for that. And now it has become this emergency place for vaccination. So this experience for her was very interesting also about how you can see the future development of a place, of a space. And in this way, it has sort of this, we could say like dystopian outcome, because it was thought to hold a place for recreation, for entertainment, but it's actually holding this place, but it's for health as well. So it was super interesting, and she shared how she started to think about uses of space because of this. And finally, the work by Kari Skanga. So she shared these monoprints and rubbings of her daughter's school backpacks. And Kari was sharing with us also ideas in relation to anticipation and preparation that we have seen in other artworks as well. When Kari presented this work, she shared this question about where in her body she was feeling anticipation. And she said in the back, but it was in relation to the fact that her daughter was starting school soon after lockdown. So she created these rubbings, which are also, they show us ghosts, but and she put one on top of the other, so it created these super interesting works. But and we said how these backpacks are an element that symbolize this anticipation that were in a way canceled during the pandemic, but it have been activated again. So the possibility for this future. And to finish, we're close to the end, but there are still 3 groups that I have to present. And first, I will present the work by Lucio, Claudia, and Kelsey. They created this video that they called Map for a Remembered Future.
What about memory? What about the future and the memory? Memory can create different territories. Our experience of living is totally subjective, and time in memory is non-linear. Collective memory can face a consideration about the recent past and the long past, but also about different places stored in similar location inside us. Deep time, layers of geology, sedimentary rocks, stalactite and stalagmite, ice core. Quick time, lightning, duration of a flower's life, duration of a snowflake. Territory, cartography and place became a way to imagine a future within that particular place, territory, or cartography. We thought about our common future. We began a common exploration starting from our geographical and emotional maps. We built together an imaginary travel, so far and so close. We built a map for an imaginary future. Our imaginary travel started with images that all of us had inside. We share atmospheres, and with delicacy we imagine the continuation of this travel, drawing maps, inventing coordinates and time zone. Our memory is a sign or selection from the past.
So Lucio, Claudia, and well, Kelsey's not here, but if you would like to share some of the experiences of producing this video, the collaboration.
Yes, we at the beginning was not our idea to work together, but then finally we start to work together. And this video is only a part of the video that we would like finalize and create together. So there is another part of the video that we decide to do after this meeting, to continue to work on the video after this meeting. And we will put together different languages starting from similar field, and with the use of words like guide words to build this map and this video, because we discovered after our first meeting that we had a lot of similar area of exploration on art processes. So it was really interesting to start to work together.
Thank you, Claudia. Yes, this is also important, the fact that it's a first part of a video and that this collaboration continues, which also makes us happy that you can continue working together. Lucio, I don't know if you would like to add something.
Yeah, I think we work based on this idea of revisiting our territory, and we talked about a lot about the memory and the feelings we had in common in this context. Like, we are in 3 different countries, and the 3 of us had the same emotions and feelings and visions of this context, and we try to merge in layers the 3 different types of work, and try to make like a map, but in a video format. So it's in constant development and in work in progress. So yeah, I'm very happy to continue working with the group.
Thank you, Lucio. And now I will invite the group of Claire, Beth, and Charshol to talk about this really nice also collaboration that they called Woman Us. Yeah.
I'm going to start, and I'll read a statement, and then Claire and Beth can add some things on. We wanted to address identity labels and agency, specifically with the question of what it means to be a woman. We chose this as a means to suggest individual reclamation and agency of the label woman. We consider this an act of repair and built on the idea of repair as an implicitly future-thinking concept. And we see our repairs as hopeful gestures, believing in a future where a much broader range of gender identity, indeed, gender fluidity, is the norm. As object makers, we wanted to both honor the act of making and the idea of haptic, intuitive processes. We each got clothing at a thrift store and used that clothing as a point of departure to enact the idea of repair. We made alterations and/or repairs or additions to the clothing with a gesture of agency and empowerment in mind. The plan is to return these garments to the thrift stores, imagining future recipients of these garments. We hope that our gift serves to envelope and empower a girl or woman in the future. So with Beth's project, she reflected on students that she had taught who had undergone transitions of their own. Her thought was to take that idea of transition to the clothing itself. She chose several articles of men's and boys' clothing to create a circle skirt. I made a comment about you can like whatever you want to like, which is something I used to use with my students when I was teaching. And she embroidered that comment into the inside of the waistband of the skirt. And that's the image on the top. Claire had several pieces, but we decided to highlight one of them, which are the shorts there on the right of your screen. When Claire saw these shorts, she thought of a girl, a cross between Anne of Green Gables and Scout, the character Scout from To Kill a Mockingbird, which is pretty much how she described herself as a girl. She chose to modify the shorts with a tomboy in mind. And in the book, The 7 Necessary Sins for Women and Girls, Mona Elthaway says women should draw attention to themselves. So Claire added the word tomboy on the front. And she made a patch from her collection of scraps, much as the same way that Anne might have. The phrase "you can wear what you want" was also embroidered on the inside of the shorts. My project explored processes of memory, empathy, and collaboration. I chose to buy garments at the thrift store that activated stories and desires from my childhood. By repairing and remaking these clothes, I was able to take back the desires of the past, which were denied to me because of gender normativity. For the work during the time frame of this residency, I chose to focus on writing personal stories that connected my past to each garment. And then in the coming weeks and months, I'm going to work on transforming the clothes. And then finally, we had a virtual sewing circle, which we did all together on Zoom, which was what you saw on the first slide, to acknowledge both women's tradition of collaborative voices and the specific exchange that occurred between us as makers. And the recorded session focused mainly on our working hands and the haptic work of our projects, as well as our stories. So I'll stop there and I can let my collaborators add anything they would like.
Thank you so much, Shar.
I don't have a lot to add. I think Shar definitely summed up everything. One of the things that became evident as we were talking during our sewing circle was that idea of how ideas themselves are constructed in conversation between people, and that idea of sending to the future through our modified articles of clothing, sending some language that would also add that idea to a future inhabitant of the clothing was definitely a big part of what we were doing.
Yeah, thank you, Shar. That was great. And I agree, it was really interesting. In the end, it became this really interesting combination of making with our hands, but also language creeping in, because there were stories associated with the items of clothing. And so then we had language coming into it. So that for me was very interesting. And it was also just a lot of fun to have a sewing circle, which I haven't done for a long, long time.
Thank you so much, the three of you. Certainly for us, it was also very interesting to understand the process of selection of each garment, that it was different from the three of you, but which also brought a lot about your personal memories. So thank you so much. I will go now to the group of Dia, Lorena, and Rachel. And this is the last group presenting. So I will show firstly the website, sorry, that also holds this work, this collaboration. And I invite the group, if you would like to explain how was the process, because I think that you will be much better than I.
Yes, so thank you so much, Daniela. So we'll begin. I'm going to go ahead and read the text on the website, which features this collaborative work called Recycling the Future. And the link is in the chat for anybody who's interested. Recycling the Future is a mixed media generative artwork carried out to investigate the concept of the process of waste management and what it may look like in the future. Our idea combines our three artworks into a digital environment to present my print on paper made with invasive plants as natural waste, Lorena's biopolymer based printed artwork as bio waste, and Dia's digital artwork as digital waste. On this website, our artworks are continuously rebuilt digitally in order to calculate how many frames are taken to actual depth in the three pieces. The browser is not only a host of the three pieces, but it is mainly a medium by which the three pieces sustainably grow and renew themselves. So the entire process raises a critical question regarding the amount of energy consumed to save every bit of data waste. Consuming such an amount results in increased carbon emissions, thermal pollution, and water consumption by cooling systems. This sheds light on the cons of digital transformation. However, this is not to be against the future's digital transformation. It is to think about how to overcome tomorrow's digital pollution. Okay, so now Dia is going to go ahead and talk about where we now are going to take this project. So Dia, take it away.
Thank you, Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hi, Dia. We can listen.
Hi. Actually, not much to add to what Rachel discussed, but for me, the two very important things to do this is this project as a process is not the end of this process, but it's just an approach to begin a long process to research about the environmental role of digital artist practices and how this rule can can help to recycle the waste of our digital era. The second thing is this is not approach for practices, but it is also approach for research in visual artists. This is why we are now preparing for the next step in these of this project, and this will be in form of a academic documentation that we will prepare in order to put these practices with the academic context. According to this academic frame, we will determine the potential approach that can be considered or can be adopted in order to continue working on the environmental, on revealing the environmental role of visual artist practices, and how can the physical or biological or digital practices can deeply contribute to process the future waste. This is it.
Thank you very much. Lorena, would you like to add something, or?
So I feel they say everything right, and I am very happy to take part of this process, and we are going to continue with this investigation also.
Thank you very much for the three of you. It's very interesting what you mentioned at the end, and how you can articulate the academic and the artistic worlds. And this is something that hasn't, and we haven't put that much emphasis on, but it's super relevant as well to see how research and practice can affect each other. So we're more than happy to know about the outcome of that. And just to finish, while I would like to share this reflection about the program and about these processes of collaboration, that when we were thinking of this program, and when we think about the need of it, of course, from the side of the foundation, there is a necessity from our side to continue working and to continue developing and change and transform. But also after we finish with every cohort, we see the importance of creating and building these structures and giving space for artists from different places to collaborate and to continue reflecting about issues that are so relevant. So we always use and collaborate as well with theorists or writers, and we thought that this quote actually described our idea in a very clear way. And so I would just read it, and we have already shared it with our cohort while we were working, but to share it as well with you. So this phrase says, and I quote, "We need to start educating ourselves no longer in the critical exercise, but in the propositional abundance of ideas and worlds. That is the now of tomorrow." So in a way, we think that that is what we propose to activate in this kind of programs. Of course, the critical exercise continues to be important, and it's something that we always do and foster, but the importance of this propositional the propositional attitude of new ideas and worlds. So that was the last thing that I wanted to share with you, and I hope that all these different ways of collaborating with the future and with nature and among colleagues and different disciplines has been useful for you as artists and as people reflecting as well about the future in your daily life or through your practice. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Danny. Thank you for such a wonderful presentation, and thank you to all the artists and participants for their testimonies. Now, before we finish, we would like to open a bit of the conversation with the group in order to share your experience, because we know, I mean, pretty much everyone knows the difficulties that the lockdown imposed on all of us in the artistic community, the cultural community, and the community in general. But what we would like to ask the participants of this program is, what has the digital, the virtual, the remote collaboration allowed you to do that you couldn't have done otherwise? So how has these circumstances somehow enhanced your collaborations, your networking, your understanding of being together with other artists participating in whether a program or even producing your works of art? So whoever wants to chime in can open the mic and just let's have a bit of a conversation on this topic. Who's kickstarting? Shar, you go. There you go.
I think for me, to be able to be in my own studio, in my own city, and then be connecting with people from around the world and kind of have both of those things, one foot in each one, was really great. And even that we would have several days between sessions or a week between sessions, it allowed me to process and think. So I think that process, those two things really worked for me, because I've done residencies, you know, face to face where you go, and those certainly offer a lot of things, but there's kind of an intensity where sometimes you don't always have time to think or process, you know, and then it's over. But with this one, I like that aspect of doing and then reflection and then doing and then reflection. It worked really well for me. So.
Thank you very much. Beth, I saw maybe you raised your hand.
Sure. I was just going to say pretty much the same thing that Shar said, but just to add on to that thought, the idea of being able to activate one's home studio with new processes and new activities that you wouldn't have necessarily thought to bring in prior to this experience was definitely a plus. I also enjoyed the knowledge of this cohort out there in the world, thinking about that we were all thinking through these topics and ideas. There was definitely a sense of camaraderie that we shared, I think. But just to echo what Shar said also about in contrast to a residency where you actually travel, which I love doing, there's less of an acclimation. The labor of acclimation is absent. So it is definitely an opportunity to really drill down and invest intellectually in a very different way, being able to do it in a familiar space.
Thank you, Beth. Claire, yeah.
Yeah, I also really appreciated there were elements of formality as well. So the fact that you know that the assay staff made presentations for us, and we also had a visiting artist, and I really appreciated the curatorial angle as well. So for me, it functioned almost like a cross between a residency and a course. So I felt I really learned a lot, and I learned a lot from everybody. So both other participants and the staff. I mean, I've got copious notes I'm going to be able to look back on. And even today, looking at our work again, I was thinking looking at it in a slightly new way and finding new things in it as well. So that from that point of view, it was very rich. And also, just from a personal point of view, I have really high anxiety levels. So the idea of going anywhere right now is, even if people say it's safe, I'm not going anywhere. So this enabled me to travel without actually having to do anything that would make me feel anxious.
Thank you, Claire, for sharing that with us. Would anybody else like to share? Also, the public, if you have any questions for the group, for the cohort, you're also more than welcome to join and ask away. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that more than other Zoom meetings that I've had over this last year and different kinds of communications that I've had, I found that this residency kind of really brought home a sense of the globalism of the isolation in a way that I found really hopeful and really stirring, you know, to sort of see each of you in your different kind of Zoom boxes there in different parts of the world, so many of you in Argentina and people from all other countries. I found it to be really affirming and yeah, really stirring to think that or not to think, but to actually feel the struggle that people are going through in so many different places, but in a shared way. That's what I'd say.
Thank you. I just want to say, I mean, I'm going to say it on my name, but maybe the team also echoes on what I'm going to say, which is what you've been saying, Chris, and the rest of the cohort. It really, it happens to us a lot the same way. We're used to receiving international artists all the time in the studio. So we're used to having all this energy flowing in the studio and not being able to do so. At least these little Zoom boxes gave us this energy that you speak about. So it's a shared feeling, what you describe and what the rest of the group said as well. Jerry, I have Jerry and then Linda raise her hand. So Jerry.
Yes, I'm quite an introvert. So I thought that COVID was fine. I went to my studio, I got to work all the time, and I didn't have to do anything except go to my studio. I also had 2 solo shows last fall. And so I was really, really focused on it and gave me the time to think about and focus on it. And then they were over. And then I had some medical setbacks. And then I got to do this and join the cohort and be reminded of all the wonderful people that are out there and the kind of work that's being done. And it was just a great stepping back into the world for me, and very energizing, and I'm ready to move on with my work. This has just been very stimulating, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of this.
Thank you, Jerry. Linda, you wanted to ask us a question, make a comment?
Yeah, hi, I was really pleased to see that you were offering this panel, because I remember thinking about participating, but in the program, but never got around to it. And it's so wonderful to have a Zoom conference with artists. There's just a different feeling, like looking at your artist friends' Facebook pages. And I'm curious, so thank you for putting on this panel. And are you going to be continuing with these virtual residencies in the near future, or even in the remote future?
Hello,
Alicia?
Linda. Yes. Hello, Linda. Nice to see you around here. Yes, we realize that we can keep both, because during these cohorts since August 2020, we received a lot of artists that told us that they wanted to come to Proyecto ACE for a long time ago, and for any reason, for instance, to have small kids, or don't to be far away from the academic or the university that they were working, or have to take care of relatives, or lack of money, or anything, they couldn't come. And it's a very good option for them. And we really enjoy this another, I don't know, I think that the Charles expressed it very well, that it's different to a presential residency, because you don't have the pressure to make your project in 4 weeks or in a time, and you have this time in between with 1 week that you can reflect. So we will keep doing this, and we are opening, we are in the studio now. I am in the same building with Andy. So we are open, far away, but open. We try to keep the social distance. He's coming, probably. He's over there. No, no te vemos. He's there. So, Linda, answering your question, yes, we are going to put this Together Apart program. And also, I think that in September, we are starting our physical residency.
Thank you. I do hope to visit you in Argentina
You are always welcome. We have been talking about this for a long time.
Thank you, Linda. Rachel, you have your hand up.
Yes, no, thank you. And what a lot of what I have to say is very similar to many of the other artists who have spoken. But I just want to say what an amazing, incredible experience this has been, and how honored and excited I've been able to be a part of it. And it's just being able to reconnect with artists such as Beth, who, was a visiting artist at the University of Iowa years ago, and just seeing, what she's been, and also meet so many amazing other artists too. And I feel like through this experience, I've been able to learn so much, compared to other residencies, about other artists' practices, and that's been so inspiring, not only being able to focus on my own work, but also learn so much about what others are doing. And that's been a real, gift, I think. And then also, Alicia, I think you said this like on the first meeting, that this is not necessarily not about the final product. This is about process. And that came as almost a real shock to me, in the sense that, a lot of times that, you're always, drilled in to think, I have to make work, I have to make work. And that was so liberating. And I just really appreciated that. And just, again, having that time, week to week, to be able to just experiment and just learn based on that. And I just really have, again, appreciated that opportunity to just make work and not necessarily feel like you have to be a machine to produce work, but then be able to grow from that experience. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, one of the ideas of this program was to make it an open end kind of a thing, because we were all so enclosed that we don't needed more limits. We didn't need more boundaries. We needed something that could expand according to each of us' needs and realities. So yeah, thank you for your feedback.
Can I add something into what you were both saying? It's that it's looking back to all these works is also so interesting how we can actually get closer to the intimate processes of work of each artist, because when we were doing the residencies in Argentina, we could get ideas of how was the place of work of the artist, of how they would work in the past. But as they are sharing all the time these reflections, maybe how they think about art while they are working in their yard or in their their surroundings, etc., we get really closer to another aspect of their work. So this is something that I think it's super interesting as well. And pointing out also what Alicia was saying, that this way of working together has opened up a whole new realm of accessibility for us, because not everybody can actually travel, and not everybody is willing to move from such a long distances, or maybe they don't feel they don't have the mood for that or the strength for that. So this is really important for us. And also being able to do it both in Spanish and English, it opens up a lot. So that's another aspect, I think.
Thank you, Danny. I see no other hands. Yeah.
Denise, I think that Denise wanted to talk.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Hi, I came because I wanted to see how you work with the same topic. I'm from the Spanish court, and I was thinking that we work with the same topic and we have very similar things, but at the same time, we have differences related with the worries, I guess, that we had in every part of the world. And that's very nice. I think it's something, I don't know, it was cool to see something different way to treat the same topic. That's all.
Thank you,
I
Denise.
want to add, Andy, to Denise, that is a very interesting point, because the Spanish cohort was joined by artists from Argentina, Peru, Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela,
Brazil.
and Brazil. There were several Brazilian artists. And it's true, it's something that the situated future, the located future, the concerns in this part of the world are different. But at the same time, many of the exercise took similar topics. Language, for instance, language was an important topic in the Spanish cohort as well.
Yes, even we use the similar tools like words, like language. Good is this? I don't remember the word.
Whoa,
and we use, and that was amazing.
Yeah, and all these coincidences happened without us, without the team interfering, because we don't give corrections, you know, we don't, you know this, so it's something that happened naturally. And we, every time we finished presenting something, we got together with the team and we were like, wow, this is like magic happening, because on both sides they're discussing kind of the same things but with different perspectives, with situated perspectives. So that's something very interesting happening. And thank you, Denise, for the feedback and for being here. Beth, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one more bonus, that I came away with an excellent reading list, so I'll be busy for the rest of the summer.
Always a plus, yeah.
Thanks, Beth. I'm happy for that.
All right, Ali?
No, just to end this wonderful encounter, I thank everybody to be here. I am already missing all of you. It has been a wonderful 5 weeks and a very challenging theme. And I hope to see you soon, there or here. Good afternoon.